Okay. All right, go ahead and restate your position again.
Okay, my opinion is immigration should not be put on either sides of a closed or open border. Because either way, the state will collapse by either law will almost be unable to be properly, I guess, dispersed. I would say what would be the correct term for it?
Um, I don't know.
Order wouldn't be properly kind of think of the right word for it. But if the borders are closed, then population wouldn't really rise,
It would decrease. Is that
and
what you're saying?
yeah, it would probably decrease, and it would, you know, things like trade and all the other stuff wouldn't be, because nations nowadays specifically rely on trade and stuff.
Okay. Would you? Is your position that America doesn't have immigration?
America doesn't have it. I
Right, because
mean,
you're saying that immigration is necessary for a country to survive. Is your position that America does not have immigration?
not necessarily. It's just more like a broader topic where, like, just immigration should be controlled, but obviously should not be put on both ends of an extreme. Shouldn't be closed. Shouldn't be fully open.
Okay, so is are you arguing from an idealistic standpoint, or are you arguing for a change? Are you arguing for a change in America and how we handle immigration?
Let's see. I haven't really caught up with. Hold on. Did Trump recently close the border?
No.
Hmm. Okay. I don't exactly remember how the border was doing on America, so I can't really say. I have heard some stories of like things happening in borders, like how the children being taken away from families and stuff, but
Yeah, but that's
not
not
exactly.
that's not closing of the border. That is deporting illegal migrants,
Oh,
most
oh,
generally that have committed violent crimes. I don't know if you've seen the recent headline, but a top leader of MS-13, a Mexican criminal organization that specializes in human and drug trafficking, was arrested
hmm.
and deported pretty recently. So it's not as though he's closing the border. He is deporting people who are here illegally that did not go through the proper channels.
Hmm. Okay, deporting.
Okay.
I personally, I feel like just instantly, just like grabbing them, deporting them back to their nations, kind of harsh.
Okay.
Like they came in illegally, but at the
Sure.
same time, maybe we should like actually give them like the things to be like, okay, you're in America,
Mm-hmm.
you have a job, whatever. You're trying to like be better for yourself and help the economy. Give them a way to gain their citizenship,
We do.
and if they fail that, then you can
No, yeah, we do.
deport them back.
We do.
They have like a choice,
No,
and if
they do.
they don't, they can just support them back.
Yeah, they do.
And then yeah,
Yeah, no, so
not
what happens is there are two ways to come into this country. If you are not a US citizen, you can go through the proper channels, which is by getting a work visa. It's essentially a program in which you are applying to get a card that allows you basically they approve you to go and work within a country. Most countries have work visas. Most
yeah,
thriving countries have work visas. There's also student visas where you can come and study at a university here. There are actually several kinds of visas that they can get. And once you get those visas, you can also apply for citizenship through that channel. Even if you are an illegal migrant, you can actually apply for citizenship. You just, of course, run the risk of getting deported in the meantime, but you can do that. And it's not necessarily that these people are being grabbed and just sent back home, right? We have been
Yeah.
we have been talking for the last several years about deportation. This administration is not the biggest administration on deportation. That would be Obama's administration that actually deported the most amount of illegal migrants. If you're talking about um, the amount of time we give them before they are deported, they do get several warnings actually, and we actually, for the most part, we're not deporting people that we knew were here illegally until they committed crimes, right? So it's not necessarily that we are suddenly taking people and sending them away. They have known that they've been here illegally for quite some time, and they assumed that risk when they illegally crossed the border, right? I can't illegally go to Japan and just stay in Japan for my whole life, right? If they catch me, they're
Yeah.
going to send me back, right? So it's not as though we're treating this specific subsection of people any differently than any other subsection of people. We are simply doing what every other country does, and for whatever reason, we have people in America that are citizens of America that do not like America to such a degree that they are willing to, I guess, root for the opposition. It's a very weird thing, right? Just kind of for example, we I was watching a podcast in which there was a Hispanic woman who is a citizen, but she had some friends and stuff that were not citizens and they were here illegally, right?
Mm.
And she was asked the question, if Mexico went to war with America, who she would side on, like whose side would she be on? And it took her a minute to answer that. And I don't think that's healthy for a country, to have people who cannot quickly make a decision as to whether or not they want to back America, their own country of origin. If they were to get into a war with another country, I feel like that shows right now, specifically, that America is doing the right thing and trying to get these people out of here. Because if American citizens are willing to even consider the fact of helping another nation win a war against America, why would we want people that aren't American citizens from that nation in America? Right? So it's not a
Can I stop for a second?
moral. Hmm?
So obviously, back America first. America's always gonna be first.
Okay.
However, even like when it's all said and done, and like if the reason that the war started was entirely on us, like we were the villains, and I would be like, yo, what the fuck? Like that would still be kind of like I will support America, but at the same time, like
Okay.
we kind of started.
Yeah, that's a
If it was
very
Mexico, if it was another country that was the aggressor, and we defend ourselves, obviously we were in the right.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
But
I
if
guess
we're
my
on the
question to you,
major evil here,
yeah, my question to you is, why do you consider one nation to be evil and one nation to not be evil? What's your descriptor for that?
let's see. Mainly unprovoked aggression, I would say.
What do you
Like
mean by
if we just
unprovoked?
let's say right let's say there's a nation, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Calm, kind of did nothing. They're just minding their own business, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And their neighbor decides, hey, we don't like you for no reason. Even if there was like no like sort of like even if they weren't like peaceful neighbors, they're just like neutral. They're neutral to each other. And then one day they just it was like war declared, like stuff started happening. In my opinion, the nation that started that like that aggression would be on the more evil side, I guess.
Okay. Do you have any example of this happening in any recent history?
Hmm. my one slight example might be Japan during the 1930s and stuff. 'Cause what I remember,
Okay.
America cut off the oil that they were sending to Japan because they were attacking China. We did not like that they were attacking China. So and the Japanese kind of relied on our oil.
Okay.
And what Japan did, they did send us a warning, but then after a while, they bombed Pearl Harbor. That kicked off the war. Like,
Whoa. What? That didn't kick off any war?
no, not the war, but it kind of it kicked off the why we had to go to war with Japan. How we got into War
Yeah,
Two, and so that
that's
was
that.
the main
Yeah.
reason.
Okay. Yes. Okay, but you
Like, you know,
do realize that's not unprovoked, right?
true.
Like Japan's in wartime, we cut off their resources. Like that's a I mean, that is an act of war.
Actually, why did I'm actually kind of curious.
But I don't feel like that I don't feel like that makes either side evil, right?
Do. Let me look up something real quick, cause I kind of forgot, why did Japan attack China? Let's see, cause it was. Let me see what happened.
He's googling. He's getting his data. Just gotta fix my nails. Yeah, if y'all are wondering why I'm looking straight down, it's because I'm fixing my nails.
Okay. So the original, apparently the reason why China went to war with Japan was because of the Marco Polo bridge incident, which
Zorking it? Crazy.
there had been a small incident along the railways connecting Beijing.
I'm just gonna ask you this really quick. Are you gonna tie this into immigration?
We kind of went off on the.
Yeah, no, but I was tying what I was saying into immigration. Are you gonna tie it into immigration as well?
I guess it could be like.
Because my entire point was that we have people.
I can't really see a point now.
Yeah.
It kind of branched off because of how we were talking about the story with who would back America.
Yeah,
who would
but
you back
that's
first in a
yeah,
war?
but that's my
Kind of stuff,
yeah, but I'm tying that into immigration by saying like we have people in America that are American citizens that are Hispanic and don't know whether they would support America or Mexico. If we have that and they're American citizens, why would we want non-American citizens in America from Mexico who would definitely support Mexico if they went to war with us? And then on top of that, right, most of these people that we are deporting are drug traffickers, human traffickers.
True.
And even the innocent ones, right? Like the relatively innocent ones, right? Because they all committed the crime of crossing the border illegally. Even if they haven't committed any actual like real crimes, right? I don't really consider crossing the border a crime, but it is illegal technically, right? So even if they only cross the border, right? Why would you want them here knowing that American companies and American CEOs love to exploit people that do not have their citizenship and pay them $5 an hour to do crazy dangerous work that you would normally have to pay a US citizen like $70,000 a year for? I don't think that's fair at all. I don't think that's fair to American workers.
Not.
I don't think it's fair to American workers who could have gotten paid $70,000. I don't think it's fair to the Hispanic worker who's getting paid $5 an hour to do it. I think in every possible situation, none of it's good for the Hispanic people that came here. I think they should go back home, and we gave them plenty of time to go back home before Trump got into office, right? So I don't think it's bad to say, yeah, no, I think we should deport people who are illegally here. That's why I made the distinction between immigrations and illegal immigrants, because it's not the same thing, right? You can immigrate
Yep.
somewhere and get your papers and your documentation legally, but illegal immigrants are what kind of is the political topic to date right now. And I think it's a fairly simple topic.
I mean, yeah, I agree. Nothing can really argue. Just if you're coming to America illegally, like at least just try to like get a citizenship. That would honestly be like the first thing I'd do if I was coming to this country illegally. Like instantly, okay, gotta get a citizenship. Let's just like
Well, it's not necessarily that simple. You do have to go through like
true.
a
Yeah,
several year
yes, yeah.
process.
Don't y'all? 'Cause I'm pretty sure you also have to get a green card, right?
Yeah, and most
Wasn't
people
that?
do that by going to the military. That's right. If you're an illegal immigrant, you can get your green card and become a citizen by going to the United States military. This isn't sponsored.
Doesn't the military pay well too?
Nope.
I can't remember
Don't. Nope.
exact
Nope.
salaries.
Nope.
Hmm.
Nope. Nope. Mm-mm. No. Nope. Not at all. Not even close.
Crazy. Crazy.
All right. What's another topic you have? What's another political topic that you have?
That was kind of like the only one because that's like pretty relevant.
Really? What's your stance on abortion?
Okay. Oh, alright.
Yeah, I thought so.
I've okay, yeah, okay. I think really like the really early stages, you should be able to abort, have abortions. Like once the fetus starts to actually like fully develop, during that time you shouldn't.
Why?
Like
What's the differentiator?
it's just because while like there's been like debates on like is a fetus alive or not, stuff like that. But it's mainly just when the
Okay. What
fetus
do you think
actually
the answer is
grows
to
to be
that?
more. I don't know. I'm not that qualified. That's the thing.
I mean, what
I'm
what
just saying that
qualifications do you need to have to know what life is? Okay, let
if
me
it's
put it to you this
breathing
way.
in any way,
Uh, shit. Okay, so are you telling me that like a seed isn't alive? I am not familiar with SB 2319.
oh, this guy.
Do you agree that plants are alive?
I don't. Hmm. I mean, yeah, they are, but like
Okay, so what's the
it
difference?
might. I'm.
The tree doesn't have a heartbeat. What's
It's
the
kind of like.
difference?
Hmm. How about going by consciousness?
Okay, in that case, a 2-year old doesn't fucking be alive. Why can't I kill a 2-year-old? If I kill a pregnant woman, it's a double homicide. Why is it a double homicide?
It's double homicide.
Yeah, it's a
Is that
double
is that true?
homicide. If I grab a pregnant lady by her neck and I chunk her off of a fucking 5-story building, it's a double homicide. Don't
How is that true,
don't
bro?
fucking laugh at that. No, but seriously, no, you can't do that, and that's because
It's
it's
yeah.
because it's considered two lives. The government itself is
That like,
polarized on this, which I think is
yeah.
really
That's
interesting.
that's the thing. Cause okay, how do you define being alive? Like
I
that's for a question at you.
I define being alive as the biological definition of being alive, which is if you carry carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, um, oxygen, and there's one other one that I don't fucking remember. But if you have all of those molecules, you are a living being, which a fetus does have. right? So if you have CHNOPS, which I don't blame you for not knowing this because I don't believe you've gotten to biology yet. It's usually taught sophomore year, so I don't blame you for not knowing this. But what I'm telling you is biology defines a living creature as a being that possesses those molecules. It's why water isn't alive, but plants are. All right, hold on. I'm going to read this bill. This is Senate Bill 2319, to enact the Contraception Begins at Erection Act to define terms to provide that it shall be unlawful for a person to discharge genetic material without the intent to fertilize an embryo. Oh, this is like super right ring. To provide for criminal penalties, so you can't even beat your meat with this without fucking going to prison. That's crazy. I'm gonna read this out, but I'm not gonna put it on the screen. Section 1. This section shall be known and may be cited as the Contraception Begins at Erection Act. Section 2. It is unlawful for a person to discharge genetic material without the intent to fertilize an embryo. Section 3. Upon conviction of a violation of this section, a person shall be fined $1,000 at the first offense, $5,000 at the second offense, and $10,000 for a third or subsequent offense. This section shall not apply to the discharge of genetic material donated or sold to a facility for the purpose of future procedures to fertilize an embryo, and or discharged with the use of contraceptive or contraceptive method intended to prevent fertilization of an embryo. Discharged with the use of a contraceptive. So it literally just means that you cannot have sex without some kind of birth control. If you have sex with some kind of birth control and you're not trying to get a girl pregnant, it's illegal. How do I feel about this? I feel that it would prevent a lot of unwanted pregnancies, right? I thought it was really bad at first. I thought it was super duper 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 bad at first. But reading section 4B, it does say that it doesn't apply to people who are using protection. So if you're using a condom, if you're using birth control, then it's okay. And honestly, I don't necessarily have an issue with that. That all this means is that you cannot raw dog if you're not trying to get pregnant, right? Unless you have your birth control. I'm trying to fix my fucking camera. Or, right, you can't beat your meat, which technically both of those are beneficial to humanity. So I don't really have an issue with the bill too much. I have an issue with the bill in terms of like freedom, but I don't have an issue with the bill. It's April Fool's stream. It's funny.
Off topic.
What I was getting into.
There's no.
No, go ahead.
There's no like clear. Because I remember there's like both reports on either side that beating your meat is both beneficial but also at the same time damaging your health.
So, I'm not getting into this with a 14-year-old. Just to make this abundantly clear, yeah. I'm not going to debate the fact
I remember there was a lot of
non-clinical ejaculation. But I will get back into the topic of abortion. So like I was saying, yes, I define life the same way biology defines life. And even if I like a lot of people, especially a lot of people who are pro-choice, they like to argue that an embryo is just a clump of cells, but every single living thing is a clump of cells. I think it's a really silly argument. Like I'm a clump of cells. That's it. That's all I am. Right? So it's really fucking funny. It's really fucking funny that this argument even exists. So no, I do not agree. I don't agree with non-mandatory abortion. What do I mean by that? I mean that if it is not required to save the mother's life, if it's not required to save a mother's life, then it shouldn't happen. That's what I mean. Unless I actually have two stances on this. If the baby would to come out with severe deformity, I don't mean autism, right? I don't mean autism. If
As in,
they're coming out with like,
like actual like bone,
yeah,
like
if they are not
life
going to be
altering.
able, yes, if they are not going to be able to enjoy life as a human being, I believe that you should be able to terminate. And if it is a risk to the mother's life to continue the pregnancy, I think you should be allowed to terminate. Those are the two times that I would ever say that you should be allowed to. Actually, there's a third. There's a third. There's a third. I do believe that in instances of sexual assault, it should also be allowed to be terminated.
Yeah, I was about to bring that up.
Those are the three times that I would say that I would allow it to be terminated if I was in control of the laws in regards to this. The real bio questions: are viruses alive? Definitionally, no. Definitionally, no. They do not carry all 5 molecules required to be considered alive. Okay. Funds, do you have any refutation to my argument?
No, not really.
Does anyone
I
have
agree
any refutations to my argument?
Your 3 points are really good.
Can make this really. I can make this an open discussion. I'd be more than fine with making an open discussion. Let me grab some of my unemployed friends. Let me see if any of them are up. I know some people that like actively debate for their existence. No, let's see, what else? What's another hot topic? How do you feel about the gender wage gap?
The gender wage gap still exists.
Still is funny. Do you think it exists ever? Do you think it ever existed?
I mean, when like American stuff was pretty misogynistic, yeah, but
yeah. What do you
now-
mean by misogynistic, though?
I mean, you like before women's suffrage, basically. I think the whole women's suffrage happened.
You mean in like the fucking 1900, like the early 1900s?
Around that time, yeah, like, maybe like 1950s and over. That was when like all like misogyny and stuff kind of.
Okay.
Died
I guess
out.
I'll rephrase. Do you think we still have the wage
saying-
gap?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Do you think it's valid for women to be arguing that they want to get paid more in the jobs that they're working at?
Oh, okay. I'm here about to come off really like fucking horrible here, but not really. No.
Okay. No, I think that's a perfectly fair and valid point to have.
If you're working the same job as a guy, you should both get paid the same.
No, that's not true. Why? Okay, let's put this into perspective. I have been a pharmacy tech for 5 years, right? I've studied pharmacy for 7 years. So I've been studying pharmacy since I was 15, okay? Why should I make the same amount as a woman who started being a pharmacy tech a year ago just because she's a woman?
You shouldn't.
Yeah, exactly. You shouldn't. So
shouldn't.
I don't think it should be based on. I don't think we should equate women to men. I think we should equate worker to worker. I think you should be paid for how good you are at that job and how much experience you have.
You know, y'all can see y'all. Debbie had a good point. On merit and stuff, but gender, going off of gender, no, that should not.
Yeah, I agree.
No.
I think the wage gap only exists because women don't do the jobs that pay more money. They do the jobs that are more comfortable. I think that's it. I think that's the only thing that's causing this gap in wages is that men work longer hours, they work harder jobs that pay more. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but a garbage man makes more than me.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, they do, right? But that's because the job sucks.
True.
That's it, right? The job sucks.
I remember seeing a study once. Can't remember how old it was, but it was that men work more of the harder jobs than women. Oh, the demographic. exactly. Don't exactly remember that. So that's the thing.
Yeah. All right. What's another hot topic? Okay. Yeah. Let's get into this. Do you think God exists?
Oh, okay. All right. Speaking from personal view years or by a logical standpoint?
Why? What? Why would there be a difference?
Well, I mean, a person can believe many things. Like, there's many different
Ooh. You
religions.
think a person? Hold on. Hold on. You think a person can believe in God and not believe in God at the same time?
No, I should refer that. People can believe. There's like a ton of religions out there. Like, you have Christianity, you have Buddhism, you have Shintoism, you have Orthodox,
Okay.
or I guess I can't really remember.
But
Like, there's a ton of different.
my question isn't what religion do you believe in? It's do you believe God exists?
What was the one? It's like
Oh shit, we can get into this, Dippy.
I'm, I'm, I guess indifferent. Because if a god does exist,
Okay.
then okay, cool. But if a god doesn't exist, then okay, whatever. It's
But
like
don't you
if
think
there is a god,
so
then
let me just put this into perspective.
yeah.
If a God exists and he heard you say that you are indifferent to his existence, do you think he would favor you when it comes for your time to decide whether or not you get into heaven or whatever version of heaven you believe in?
Wasn't one of the teachings of the Bible? I can't remember which one, but doesn't God accept all?
No. God accepts those who believe in him and have surrendered their life to him. Right? So when you say you accept Jesus Christ, for example, Christianity, I'll go with Christianity. When you say that you accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, you are giving your life to God, right? So when you're talking about what it specifically says in some parts of the scripture is that if you do not know that God exists and no one ever told you that God existed and you just kind of lived your life kind of ignorant to the knowledge of his existence, then you would be fine because you didn't know, right? But for you who is aware that there could, in your perspective, be a God that exists, and for you to say that you are indifferent to him, that just kind of shows that you are kind of disregarding his existence, which no, he doesn't believe that's good. In fact, he says, and I quote, no, I'm just kidding, I don't quote the Bible, but it basically says, if you are hot, he will drink of you. If you are cold, he will drink of you. But if you are lukewarm, he will spit you from his mouth. Right? So what that means is that God is saying, if you do believe in him and you surrender your life to him, he will accept you. If you do not believe in him and you know he exists but you don't give a shit, he will accept you and send you to hell, but he'll still accept you. And then if you know he exists but you don't really give a shit, he's gonna be like, what the fuck? I don't give a shit, right?
How about this, Chris? Let me answer your question with another question. Right?
Okay, go ahead.
Cause in my spare time, I'll look at like different religions once in a while.
Okay.
I remember reading about Buddhism. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
According to Buddhists, when you die, you will be sent to I'm trying to recall, but it's like kind of like the receptionist before hell, or whatever. It's Yama, the king of hell, and if I remember correctly, he will ask you.
Yeah.
He will ask you, when you were alive, did you practice Buddhism? Did you see, did you see all the change, whatever? Okay. Let's say you are a Christian, but then you go to hell and you meet Yama. Okay. Then what do you say to him? How do you explain that I did not believe you existed? I did. How are you gonna explain to him?
Yeah, so you're basically asking if you're a Christian, or you're basically asking this question. If you choose a religion and the religion is wrong, what do you do? right? Is that your
Kind of.
question?
It's kind of a thing.
Is that your question?
Okay, both. Well, I guess kind of, yeah, but there's more to it.
Well,
But we'll
yeah,
just say
but I
that
mean, like, it
that's
could
the main
be
thing.
you
Let's say
said,
that's the main thing.
yeah, you said Christian, but you could apply to anyone. So,
Yes, could apply
yeah,
to anything.
yeah, exactly. So if I chose the wrong religion and I get to wherever I go and their God and their judger is like, hey, why didn't you practice the correct religion? I would just tell them because I did not know that was the correct religion. The whole point is like to be honest and integral, right? Um, how they choose to judge you is based on how you are, right? So if you lie to them, you're just making things worse for yourself. Um, and of course, if you just like deny to answer their question, you're also just making things worse for yourself. There's no reason to lie, right? It'd be the same question if you were to ask, like, if you practice Buddhism your whole life and then you got to heaven and God said, why didn't you practice Christianity? Like, what are you just gonna lie? Like,
No.
yeah, what's the point in that? I kind of just don't understand your question. But I mean, let's go back to the original point. That is, you're indifferent to God's existence. Okay, so let's go about the logical reason as to why God would exist. Okay, are you aware of the law of identity?
Not particularly. Let me.
Okay. Well, it's a logical law. It's a law of logic that says anything exists as itself and cannot be something else. Okay? So 1 equals 1. That's the very common. It's the very common representation of the law of identity is 1 equals 1. Okay? So
Alright.
if we have 1 equals 1, do you believe that the universe is infinitely expanding?
Can't be infinitely.
Why
Because
not?
at some point it's gonna have to. It can't. It won't just go on for. Okay, if we're following the Big Bang Theory, sure, it's gonna go on for a really long time, but is it gonna be infinite? No.
You don't know that
There's
though.
no way for. It's taken by a logical guess.
Well, no, not necessarily. If you're going to have a logical claim, you would need empirics to back that up. So your claim is that the universe does not go on forever because it does not have the energy to go on forever, right? But you don't know that. For example, if we're going off of the laws of physics, then black holes don't exist because they're illogical beings. Black holes are illogical entities. We don't have a reason for them to exist, but they exist, right? They break the laws of physics, but they exist. Right?
Right.
Okay. So the universe goes on for yeah, we know that, right? But I mean technically it would mean that the laws of physics that we have currently are wrong, right? It just means that our current understandings of the laws of physics are wrong, which means we could also be wrong about, things not having infinite amounts of energy. Um, so let's put it this way. Um, say the universe isn't infinitely expanding. Do you agree to the law of matter that matter cannot be created nor destroyed?
As of current, yes, until we have found a way to prove that it can be created out of thin air or destroyed.
Okay. And do you agree that energy cannot be created nor destroyed?
Yes.
Okay. So then how did the Big Bang occur?
Again, that's a
Yeah, so
Big Bang
exactly
is a
it
theory.
okay, well, how did the universe come into existence if it can't be created nor destroyed?
Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. So that implies it implies the existence of something that can break that fundamental law of creation, right? So that's what we call a creator, or in Christianity's case, God, right? You cannot say that something cannot be created nor destroyed, right? And then it is created or destroyed because that would be illogical, right? And lo and behold, the only thing that you could be considered illogical would be something that has the power to do illogical things. We would call that God.
But then how did that God come into existence?
Once again, it's an illogical being. It doesn't follow any sort of logic. So for you to ask the question of how did it come into being, I mean, what's the point of even asking a question about something illogical? Yeah. No, we don't disagree. Like, I don't. Why would. Okay. Yeah, Dippy, I don't disagree with the fact that everything resulting from it is perfectly logical except for black holes and white holes and all that other bullshit, right? Or quantum mechanics and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But, right, I can program a robot to do illogical things in a simulated universe, but I'm a logical creature. Does that make sense? Like, you can make things different from how you are, right? Like it's just how it is. Like I'm not green, but I can paint a green picture. Now apply that on a really crazy scale. like like apply that to but on an infinite scale. That would be God. Right. So I personally believe I don't necessarily believe in a big bang. What I do believe is an expansion from a focal point. I believe that whatever caused that expansion would be God, which aligns with, you know, pretty much everything. Like there's no reason to not believe in a God if you believe in the existence of a universe because the law of identity states that 1 equals 1. Um, and then you also have the universe exists, and since 1 equals 1 and the universe equals the universe, it can't not exist ever, right? So the only thing that could break that would be God.
But the thing is, does it have to be something that breaks it? What if it's just something we can't observe?
You mean
It's
like
like,
something that's outside of reality? Because that would just be
oh,
God.
hang on. Let me just mute the stream. I had it running. Could you say that again?
Yeah. So like if something you said, what if it's just something that we can't observe? Like you
Yeah,
mean like something outside of our reality?
it doesn't have to be that. Like, for example,
Okay.
back when we didn't have heliocentrism, just because we didn't observe the stars, all rotating around us, we believe that the entire universe rotated around the Earth. That doesn't mean that that's correct. So
So
it
I guess you're
can go either way there.
yeah, I guess you're arguing for the I mean, you're still arguing for the existence of God, right? Like just because you're saying that we can't observe God doesn't mean that like yeah, you're right. We can't observe God. That doesn't really refute my point per se.
There seems. I feel like
That's
there's
true. Like
something
it
on.
it really just says it's up to the person to believe. But for me in particular, I would say that because there's no evidence, there's
Well,
no
so hold on.
reason
Yeah,
to
there's
think
no real
that for me.
evidence
So hold on,
because we
Dippy.
don't particularly have.
No, hold on.
Yeah.
That's not true. Technically, I just gave you the empirical evidence. The empirical evidence is that the universe exists. It can't not exist, but we also know that matter can't be created nor destroyed. And if it can't be created nor destroyed, that means that it can't exist to begin with. It would be a logical fallacy for something to exist but cannot be created. So you would need something that would be able to do logical fallacies. And the only thing that could do a logical fallacy would be an illogical being. And a being of illogical capability would be able to do whatever it wants. We call something that can do whatever it wants omnipotent, and we describe God as omnipotent.
Now, what's saying it has to be an illogical being instead of like an illogical law that no longer functions
An
or anything like that?
illogical any law that doesn't function doesn't exist as a law.
I kind of. I haven't really looked at the Big Bang for an while, but wasn't the entire
Hmm.
thing was that
Uh,
the
yeah.
universe got so heated because it was like it was super dense. They got
Energy
super
cannot
heated
be created
to
nor
a point.
destroyed. Heat is a form of energy.
I can't exactly remember, but something happened that caused the universe basically to just start stretching.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be able to exist without being created. Everything has a start point. Nothing can just exist out of nothing because nothing can't exist.
But then how did God exist? If there's a start point,
so once again, so remember,
Yeah.
once again, you're talking about an illogicality. So when you talk about a being that is illogical, you can't ask questions about it because it's illogical. That's kind of the point. That's why God exists, is because it's able to do things that are illogical and defies logic.
But then by that logic, then the universe is illogical.
No, because God isn't part of the universe, right? We're not arguing for God being part of the universe. We're arguing for a God that created the universe.
But again,
I can create a playground for children. That doesn't mean I'm in the playground for children.
Yeah.
But no, because I'm saying, right? If God is an illogical being, okay, he has no start point.
Correct.
Then how did he appear? Even the illogical thing of black holes.
What do you mean by appear?
No.
The thing with black holes, right?
Uh-huh.
They're from from what I remember correctly, they're from a supernova or whatever, a star that died.
So no, not necessarily. It doesn't. It's not just caused by stars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was getting to that. We don't know exactly what makes them into black holes afterwards.
We do.
Yeah.
We do. A black hole is caused by something that's so massive that its gravity crushes itself, right? So planet Earth has a gravity that pulls things towards it. We're talking about things that have so much mass that they pull itself into itself, and that causes a black hole.
Yep, and it has to be able to also pull in light.
Yeah, so a black hole is just a supermassive object. That's all. But said supermassive.
And black holes are logical.
To an extent. They do break some physical laws, which do conflict with the laws of logic, but it's kind of irrelevant to the discussion. Ultimately, what we're saying here when we're talking about the existence of God is that an illogical being would not have to follow the rules of logic, so you can't ask a logical question about an illogical being.
Yeah. Crisis is saying that God doesn't follow logic, so he doesn't have to be part of the universe. He can be before the starting point of the universe.
Yeah. And there wouldn't need to necessarily even be like a start point for God. It could just be a constant. Right, and here's the issue. Here's the issue with like the point of atheism is that you can't agree that the universe exists and that God doesn't exist because it's a logical fallacy. If you believe
now, what if the
universe
illogical
exists, you have to believe that it was created.
Why does it have to be created?
Because
what if the universe is that constant? Not just like how you said God could be the constant. What if the universe was?
So, but here's the issue. Matter cannot be created nor destroyed.
Well, who's saying that it's created from nothing? Like, say that matter just existed.
Yeah. Here's the ever so slight issue with that: entropy.
Yeah, things will go to a lower state of energy, but that's exactly what the Big Bang is.
And where does that energy go?
That's the universe expanding infinitely, as much as it can. We don't know exactly what's going to happen after that happens for a while.
So hold on, you would agree that mass equates to energy then?
Yeah.
Yeah. So where did the energy originally come from? Because energy is only stored, right? It's either stored or being put to use. So where did the original energy come from?
Now that's something I don't have the answer to.
Yeah, exactly. Because once again, it has to come from something illogical. It can't just happen. Like it just can't.
Now,
it's a logical fallacy.
Mm-hmm. That is true, but also we might just not have the capability of observing it at this very moment. Like we don't know what happens before the Big Bang. Okay. Maybe sometime in the future we'll be able to find that point that
But here's
tells us that.
okay. But do you agree that algebra is objective?
Algebra is objective, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So 4 plus x equals 9. What is x?
4 plus x would be 5, or x would...
Yeah.
4... sorry, yeah.
So you're
X is
able
5.
to make a logical determination based on multiple factors, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So if the law of identity exists and energy and mass cannot be created nor destroyed, but we have a universe where both energy and mass exist, we can take those factors to decide that something has to be outside of those factors in order for us to get these factors even here to begin with, right? So we just solve for x, and x isn't a logical being, right? This is not like, it's really not that hard.
What if? Hear me out, right? We just don't have the ability to observe or determine for ourselves that matter truly cannot be created or destroyed.
Okay, yeah, actually I do. I do have this ability. I take a fucking hammer, I smash something on my fucking desk. The mass is still fucking there. If I put it on a scale, it still weighs the same. The mass is still there. You can't destroy mass.
Yeah.
This is not it's just not possible to argue against the existence of God. It just isn't possible. It's a logical fallacy, no matter what way you look at it. I used to have an even more in-depth version of this. That it wasn't a version of this argument, but it used to be a different argument, but I was able to defeat it by myself. Like, I defeated my own argument, so I had to come up with another one.
Oh, what was that?
Well, the original argument was, do you agree to the law of identity? Premise 1, the law of identity exists. Premise 2, splitting an atom releases energy, so therefore mass equates to energy. Premise 3, if there's an infinite amount of energy in the universe, then any piece of the universe would be infinity, because any percentage of infinity is still infinity. Ergo, in order to create an infinite energy, you would need a being capable of creating infinite energy, because mass cannot be created nor destroyed. Ergo, you would have to have an infinite being, and we would describe God as an infinite being. That used to be the old one.
Hang on, what was the point about the atom being split?
Yeah. So if you split an atom, it releases a bunch of energy, right? So mass is essentially hyper-concentrated energy, was the original point.
Oh, okay.
It's not true, by the way.
Yeah.
If you tell that to somebody who's not like a physicist or doesn't debate, like they wouldn't know what to do with that.
Yeah, because it's when you split an atom, you're not like destroying matter.
Yeah.
You're just splitting into smaller particles that no longer have the bonds that held them together.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
energy doesn't have mass because it doesn't have a Higgs boson, which is the particle that gives mass.
Yeah. It was just the bonds being broken that released that.
Yeah. So, yes, there is a God. God does exist. Now, what religion you prescribe to changes the characteristics of that God, but there definitely is a God. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be a he, she, whatever the fuck, right? It could just be completely incomprehensible.
Yeah.
It could be Cthulhu for all we fucking know. It doesn't matter, but there is a God.
I guess my point would be, like, I was saying it doesn't have to be like a god per se. Like, there could be some sort of rule that we just can't comprehend. Like, it doesn't have to be a being that
Okay.
caused the universe to
Okay.
come to be.
My counter argument to that would be that rule created, which we would still consider to be God, so that rule would just be God.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, like, you can also think of God as a force. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
That's fair.
Oh, if you want to debate about games, we can do that too. I definitely did power scaling in the past.
Off topic. But okay. Where do you think heaven and hell are?
They
And what do
okay.
you think the soul? And
I think
what do you? What's your
I just don't
opinion on the soul?
subscribe to them.
yeah. Here's I guess my ethics kind of more or less. So my position is this: I believe in a God, and my moral compass aligns most with bits and pieces of different denominations of Christianity, more so towards orthodoxy, but there are some things that I disagree with. I would describe heaven as an eternal afterlife, and I would describe hell as the absence of God. Right? So I would describe hell as literally just not having God with you. We tend to think that God walks with us and is a part of our essence and our soul, which gives us our moral compass and our shaped kind of worldview. But if you take that away, you are left with nothing but despair and hope and regret, right? So that's what we consider hell to be.
I remember that there were a few versions of hell. Where
Yeah, depending on what
it was
denomination
the
you are.
Lake of Fire, which wasn't the Lake of Fire made to
See,
just
yeah.
destroy.
My argument for the Lake of Fire is just that, have you ever regretted something so much that you get like a burning feeling in your stomach or like your lower chest?
Not to that extent.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
Well, once you get older, you definitely will. It's the same
Heartburn.
feeling. Yeah, it's the same feeling. Yeah, that's my argument for the Sea of Fire. Is just like a constant extreme version of that. It's like the regret of not having your Lord with you anymore.
except it's just stomach acid going up your body.
Well, no. You're not like a physical being, but it's like your soul
Yeah.
goes through that.
I was just referencing heartburn as, yeah.
So you debate games, okay? Let's do this. Who do you have in a fight? A blade of grass from Naruto, or
What?
Krillin from Dragon Ball Z.
What do you mean a blade of grass from Naruto?
I'll get there.
The only blade of grass I know of is from Terraria.
Oh dear lord. Do you know what a
I do
blade
not.
of grass is, Funds?
I do not watch Naruto, buddy.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, so a blade of grass is literally a
Oh.
leaf from grass. Like it's just a grass, but it's like a leaf. It's literally just a piece
Oh.
of grass.
Oh, I thought we were talking about a weapon. I'm hearing blade of grass. I'm like, oh, is it a weapon? No, he's just talking about grass. Okay.
I mean, there's a sword called the Blade of Grass in Naruto. That's the thing, though.
Yeah. No. Do you think Krillin from Dragon Ball Z can beat a single blade of grass? Like not a weapon, a literal blade of grass from Naruto Shippuden.
Obviously, it's not gonna.
I mean-
fight
Okay,
back.
I'll take the stance that the blade of grass can defeat Krillin. I'll let you start.
Okay. First off, how is the blade of grass gonna fight back?
No. Like begin power scaling your character. Why the fuck would you start with a question?
I don't.
Yeah.
What
buddy,
makes
you're
Krillin so powerful?
He-
How would Krillin beat the Blade of Grass? What feats has he done?
Yeah. How do you debate games but you haven't ever power scaled?
You're putting me in like an anime stuff I don't know about. That's
What
the
do you
thing.
don't know about
Well, okay,
Dragon
what
Ball
was
Z?
the-
Oh.
I don't watch it.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't
Well, what
watch it.
anime do you watch? What anime do you watch? My apologies.
Let's see. I watched One Punch Man recently and finished with JJK. Started with Chainsaw Man a little bit ago.
Okay. You said JJK.
Yeah.
Okay.
The one
do you
that
think-
everyone shits on.
Do you think Gojo Satoru could beat a blade of grass?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Get started. Scale Gojo for me.
Are we gonna talk about Kingo? Wait, which part of Gojo?
It could
Are we
be
gonna say
any
from?
fucking Gojo. I don't care.
Okay.
It
Alright,
could be the
let's
most
just do
powerful
King.
version of Golo.
Gollum. me.
Fucking yeah. Scale
So
Hobo
call him
for me,
Gojo
please.
versus
Can you scale Hobo for me, bro?
Alright, Golo, according to Milkshake Man, he is hyperversal level because
No, no, no,
he
no, no, no,
obliterated.
no, 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 no. You have to actually scale the character. You can't just call them a level,
Yeah,
bro.
yeah. Teen Gojo, specifically, let's see, one of his big attacks, which was, let's do red, after his whole, thing, whatever.
You're using Teen Gojo, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay, go.
Why?
Go ahead, go ahead.
That's like the weakest version of Gojo.
No, give me, start with his AP, please.
Okay. Let's see, starting by... going off of versus Battle Wiki, which I know is very,
I
Oh,
literally
no.
just made a video about this.
Oh
yeah,
no!
very unreliable. But just going off of what I remember...
Yeah, please go off of what you remember,
I
bro.
know.
Please do not go for VSP.
Bro, why is it...
Okay, you know what? What's a character you know really fucking well?
I'm gonna explode myself, bro. I swear to God. Why am I randomly blanking out, bro? I'm gonna
I thought Buddy debated.
Yeah.
I do better.
I thought he debated, bro.
It's more just being put on the spot.
What? Have you? What? Every debate is on the spot. He's typing now.
Yeah.
What about you, Dippy? What's your stance on abortion?
On abortion, I'd say like it should be up to the person whose body the baby is in, up until I'd say the third, I think they're called trimesters.
You think until the third trimester?
Yeah,
Okay.
begins. Since it's pretty much their responsibility to do everything with that child.
Okay. Do you think fathers are responsible for their children?
Yeah, they are. Once
Okay,
they're
so
born,
then
as well
why-
as conceiving it.
Okay, so if a man wants his child to be born, but the woman does not, if they're both responsible for the child, why does the woman get final say?
I'd say the woman would get final say because it's their body that the child is being grown in. The father's not the one that's
The man produced
giving up,
but the man produced the sperm in his body.
and the woman produced the zygote or their egg in their body.
Yeah,
They've
so
done equal work
it would
there,
be-
but then
it would
afterwards,
be- okay.
after that, the woman is the one providing all the nutrients and everything.
Okay, yeah, for 9 months, right?
Mhm.
Okay, but if a baby is born, the father has to provide for it for the remainder of its life until it becomes an adult.
Now the father doesn't have to do that. That's
That's not true.
or
That's not true.
yeah,
If the
that
father were
okay,
to leave, he would still have to provide financially for the child.
yeah, but in that case, the baby would be born already. That's not you're not
Right,
aborting.
but
that.
we're arguing. Your main argument here is responsibility, right? It's the factor of responsibility.
Yeah,
Okay, well, I'm saying I would believe that the father is equally responsible for that child.
that responsibility hasn't come into play yet.
You don't think so?
Yeah, because they have yet to provide for said child. That child isn't born yet.
I don't think that's
Right now, it's just the
necessarily true.
mother's body.
I think the majority of time, right, generally speaking, I think fathers have to financially provide for the pregnant woman, so I don't believe that's true either.
That's true, but the child doesn't exist yet.
That's okay. What do you mean by exist? Because the baby definitely exists within the womb of the mother.
That's true, but okay, for me with the third trimester thing, I consider the baby not a full human yet until the third trimester.
What is a human?
After, what is a human? It'd just be the child of a human.
What? You can't use the word. In
Yeah,
the
that's true.
definition of the word.
I guess a Homo sapien. Sure.
Okay, but
But-
by that definition, the fetus is definitely a Homo sapien.
That's true. Morality-wise, that's like the whole thing with abortion. It's not that you're killing a Homo sapien; it's you're killing a sentient one.
Okay, but once again, that would mean that I would be able to like fucking murder a 2-year-old without any consequence if that was the case.
Yeah, no, that's why we don't abort children that are born.
Yeah, right. But the argument is we don't want to kill sentient beings, right?
Mhm.
Why is sentience a differentiator? And then
Because
you
at
know
that
what?
point, like,
Actually, you know what? I'll completely drop that point. I will grant it to you that the differentiator is sentience. Why is it then that when babies listen to classical music in the womb, they are predisposed to liking classical music after being born if they're not sentient?
they could just remember it from before they
Yeah,
gained
what is
sentience.
sentience if not being able to experience and remember things? That's like literally the meaning of sentience is being aware of your surroundings.
That's fair. Uh, well, at that point, I would just say it's just I would go back to the responsibility thing. Like, if the mother doesn't want to take care of the child, they should be able to abort it before the third trimester.
Okay, but
And if the father wants,
if the father doesn't want to be responsible for the child, why can't he just leave without paying child support?
he shouldn't have had the child in the first place. Then
Yeah, but why do women get the final say in that is my argument. Why does it okay, let me rephrase that. Why is it the woman's choice to place responsibility on a man, but a man does not have the choice to place the responsibility of giving birth onto a woman, right? Why is that so unequal? Why is the choice given to the woman and not both of them? Why do they not both have to mutually agree on something?
I guess I haven't really considered that before, considering I've only talked to people that have both wanted to have a child and had said child. Huh. I've
Okay.
never considered the point of,
Yeah, like that this is kind of what I was getting at
yeah,
earlier is that like when you think logically, you are thinking morally, right? Because if you're going to equate responsibility, then men overwhelmingly have a responsibility to the child, whereas women can just decide to not have responsibility. Which is my main opinion. Like that's my main disposition with abortion is that if men have the responsibility of taking care of children, women have the responsibility of not killing the children, right? It's just it seems fair to me that both sides should mutually agree. And then once we did ultimately get to a society where both parents had to mutually agree, I would then also continue to argue against abortion because I believe that human race needs to go on and not be subject to the fucking decisions, right? I don't want random people deciding whether or not the human race should go on.
yeah, that's fair. Um, I guess I was arguing more against like abortion just being banned in general. Like the parents should have the choice to abort the child before the third trimester. What you said about like the father having equal responsibility, uh, yeah, that is fair. If both parents want to conceive a child, then it should be the case that both of them have to agree on getting an abortion, not just the mother or
Okay,
the soon-to-be mother deciding that. Yeah.
okay. I would then follow up with this, right? I'm then going to follow up with this if you agree to my prior statement. If it is okay to abort a baby, right? Like what makes it okay? Sorry, I phrased this wrong. What makes it okay to kill the baby before the third trimester again?
Uh, it would be, I guess, like brain function or like being able to tell if the baby is able to perceive things
Well, remember
or sentience.
we already agreed that sentience does occur prior to the third trimester.
Yeah, it's whenever that would appear. Then I guess
Okay.
I just went with third trimester because I don't exactly know the specific time period. I
Okay, so
guess.
your argument is specifically for whatever point is sentient. Here's the issue with that: it changes depending on baby to baby.
Yeah, that's
So we
fair.
wouldn't be able to legally enforce that. We would need some kind of standard.
In that case, um, we can just pick a point that has guaranteed the baby is most likely like 99% of the time not going to have sentience. Like I'd say the first trimester, it sounds like it wouldn't
So
have sentience by then.
here is the issue. Here's the issue. There's a morality problem with this issue. If you're going to abort a baby at the first semester just because generally speaking they're not sentient, then the ones that are sentient you're murdering them. By definition, it would be murder.
Yes, but also at the same time they wouldn't be raised
Ooh,
happily, most likely.
what does that mean?
Like if both parents wanted to abort a baby
Okay.
and then it's born anyways,
They could give it up for adoption.
that's
They could set it into foster care. There are plenty of better things than being murdered. I would rather go to foster care than be murdered. I think that's a fair thing to say.
that's true. But if you're not conscious to even make that like connection,
See,
then it doesn't really.
see, conscious is what we're equating that to sentience.
Yeah, sentience. Sorry. If you're not
Yeah, but then
able to
you're-
perceive that,
Okay, so you're making the argument that the majority of them aren't sentient, so the majority of it isn't murder, so that's okay.
that sounds terrible.
It
But
does sound
yeah.
terrible, but you're okay with it.
I would be okay with it.
Okay, and you're okay with it because of what? Because it's the max amount of good for the most amount of people, right?
In this case, yeah.
Okay, so black people are 13% of the population, but commit 50% of the violent crimes. Should we kill them all?
No,
Why not? Your argument is
since
that we
there's
need to
other
make the
ways to
most-
make.
So hold on. Your argument is that we need to make the most amount of good for the most amount of people, and the most amount of good would be to completely eliminate the cause of the issue, not hope that we find a way to make it better.
The cause of the issue is not because the people are black. The cause of the issue is like other factors, like how the environments people are raised in,
Well,
things like that.
So hold on. No, the cause of the issue is that they're violent people. So we should kill every violent black person. Yes or no?
No. That's
If they're violent people and they are causing the issue, and your argument is that we should do the most amount of good for the most amount of people, we should not only just kill black people, but anybody who commits a violent crime, right? We should just kill them. If that's the most
why would
amount
we
of
kill
good-
them?
Because that's the most amount of good we can do for the most amount of people is making society safe, and that entails that we eliminate the threat, right? If I'm a police officer and I go into a house and the person that we're going after is armed and has a gun, we have to eliminate that threat, right? So it makes very much sense that we would have to do as much as possible to eliminate the threat. And if they are violent individuals who commit violent crimes maliciously, it makes sense that we take them out.
Okay. So to reduce said threat, it's just reducing the population of violent peoples. That doesn't mean killing them. You can also just convert them,
How
like
would you-
rehabilitation centers,
So, yeah, you're
things like
hoping-
that.
Yeah, you're hoping.
Yeah, and in the meantime, they wouldn't be able to interact with normal society. They wouldn't be able to be violent in like
Okay.
a non-violent
Would you
society.
Would you release them once they show that they're not a threat anymore?
I'd say yeah.
Okay, congratulations. You just opened yourself up to what already exists, the American prison system. We already have rehabilitation centers that fail on average most of the fucking time, right? So we
Yeah,
can't
that's
just-
the issue.
Yeah, we can't just have people pretending to be good and then they just start fucking killing people again, right? So the most amount of good for the most amount of people is executing violent criminals. Funds I will get to you in a moment.
Or violent criminals can just be locked up. That's exactly what they're doing in Mexico right now.
No, yeah.
They've
No, you can
like they have two separate prisons. I don't remember where, but like I just remember this like concept.
So you just want to put them in prison for life.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I don't
That'll
mind that
keep them
either.
out of society.
I don't mind that either. But then that's still killing them. So what's your point?
I mean,
Yeah.
that's one way that people can cope with not killing them.
No. That
Just
is
lock them
killing
up forever.
Locking them up until death is still the death sentence. What is your point?
The point is that the violent population is now lessened
Yeah. No.
in
But you're just arguing.
non-violent society.
Yeah. But Dippy, you're arguing my point for me. If I put you in a box until you die, did I not kill you?
Yeah, you pretty much have.
Right? So what's your point? Your point is just
Can I add something
kill
real quick?
them. Yeah, go ahead.
About the putting them in like a cell until they can be released into society. What if they still show violent tendencies even in that isolation? What do you do then?
Then they just stay in isolation. They can't be released.
Okay, Dippy, yeah, you're just arguing my point to kill them then. Like, you haven't changed.
I mean, you can do whatever you want with them, just don't bring them back into society. Sure, yeah.
Yeah, Dippy, so you want them to die. You want them to die away from society. You just argue my point for me. Okay, so once again, you're going back to this idea of the greatest amount of good for the greatest amount of people. So you would admit then that the greatest amount of people, or the greatest amount of good for the greatest amount of people would be to kill all violent criminals. I just want to make sure your argument is consistent. That's what I'm trying to do here.
Yeah. I understand that, but also, like, the phrasing here is villainous.
The phrasing isn't villainous. The phrasing is the truth, right? You
Yeah.
want the greatest amount of good for the greatest amount of people. The greatest amount of good would be to just kill them all, right? Let God sort them out.
I guess, yeah, that would do that, but also,
Very good.
there's the morality
Yeah.
standpoint.
Well, no, is that morality? Because if you're thinking logically, you're thinking morally, and the greatest amount of good for the greatest amount of people is morally good. Right?
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, okay. Here's the issue. You just agreed to the same thing that the Nazis did. Okay? So, yeah, you can't do that, alright? We can't just decide to kill people we don't like. Alright? That includes babies, okay? Yeah, so we're not gonna do that. Alright? But, hey, listen, at least your argument is consistent. I applaud. Your standpoint is consistent. I fuck with it, honestly, right? I don't disagree with standing on business, as they say. So, look, if you really have that position, and you're perfectly okay with it being morally, kind of in the gray. I don't know. Necessarily.
See, I'm okay. Like, for me personally, I'm okay with it regarding babies. Now, fully grown humans, they are very much able to perceive pain. We can see that very much.
Oh, no. Hold on. Because if that's your argument, then you've been.
Me when I hit a baby upside down.
Are you aware that plants feel pain?
Oh, yeah, I am.
Oh, okay, cool. So why wouldn't a zygote feel pain?
I mean, we have yet to, like, really be able to see that.
That's not true. They have nerve endings. Anything that has nerve endings has sensory.
I guess in that case it'd be
pretty
the sentience to remember it.
Well, here's the issue. We don't have a standard for sentience. So if you get a sentient baby in there, it fucking feels the fact that you're blending it in a fucking blender, or that you're using a vacuum to break its limbs off. It feels that shit. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the best thing in that case would be either A, just don't kill it, or B, kill it at a point in which most babies are not going to be sentient.
Yeah, very, very slight issue. Once again, you can't find out when that point is. This is a debate gauntlet. I'm debating hot topics, a lot of hot topics. Yes, a fetus can feel, but it just can't express, right? It can't tell you that it's in pain. But if you punch a woman in the stomach, I promise you that baby feels it. I promise you that baby feels it. Because it has nerve endings. So
Yeah.
you can't fucking make the argument that the reason we can kill babies is because they don't feel pain. That's not fucking true. Right? So morally, you would have to bite the bullet that there's not really an ethical way to abort, right? Because it's still killing a human being.
I guess that is true.
Right? So
Yeah.
just kind of gets down to that point where it's always, well, you can say it's not a human, but what do we define a human as? It always ends up being whatever that fetus is, ends up being a human, right? You could
Yeah.
also, you can make the argument once again where it's like, well, sentience, here's the issue. Fucking fetuses have sentience.
We don't know, yeah.
Yeah, most
It's
of
not
them
defined.
have fetuses, like most of them have sentience past a certain point. We just don't know what that point is. And third of which, they do feel pain because they have nerves. And anything with nerves is going to have sensory. So, yeah, no matter what the argument is, it is always going to be unethical to abort because you're just killing a person. Bizarre. Do you feel as though you could, or what's your position, Bizarre? And then Volt, I'll get into you as well if you would like. You don't have to remember. I just want to know your position, right? I just want to know your position. I can debate each one of you individually. I just want to know your position.
On abortion.
Yeah, on abortion. And we can get into trans rights and everything under the fucking sun. I'm not monetized, so I have nothing to lose. You don't know? You don't know your position? Really? You just kind of indifferent? Yeah, some guys really don't think about it. What stage would you say that a fetus is truly alive?
It's
once again, yeah, biologically.
It's alive at birth.
It's always
or at existence.
Yeah, biologically speaking, it's always alive because it has the properties of life. Yeah, of course you can join BC. Yeah, it's an open discussion. Open discussion. Would an egg be considered alive then? What do you mean
No.
by egg? What egg? Right? Are you talking about like a female egg? Well, I mean, a female egg is not fertilized and therefore does not have all of the properties of life, right? So no, we couldn't consider it alive. We can consider it organic matter, right? We can consider it to have cells that are organic and the cells are alive. Yeah, no. So it's interesting though. If you're talking about considered to be alive, you could say that any cell is alive or any clump of cells is alive. So I could say that my heart is alive, right? Because it's an organ and it has its own function, right? So technically it's alive. You could say that an egg is alive, right? But we wouldn't say that it is like its own individual, right? We'll put it that way. Would you say germinal stage is where it's alive, where it gets fertilized and stuff? If I really, really, really have to get into it, I would say that any organ or organism is alive, right? But because an egg isn't an organism, I wouldn't call it an individual, if that makes sense. Right, when I talk about the morality of abortion, I usually talk about the individualism of the child in question. Volt, what is your position? This is a long position. He's typing up a book. It's going to begin with, from my meta-ethical framework. Jesus Christ, this is long. Oh boy. Fuck, it's hot. I personally don't believe that abortion is unethical because of the fact that a fetus, when young, practically has no identity at all. Okay, so we're discussing identity. Would you like to use your mic? I feel like this goes a little bit smoother if I can go back and forth a little bit faster. If not, it's fine. My bad, I was just looking unsure how to word that, but I gotta figure it out. I'm a fast typer? Okay, cool. Okay. So you don't believe it's unethical because of the fact that a fetus when young, what do you mean by young? What are you talking about in terms of youngness? I believe this may be kind of an equivalent to when Dippy was talking about like sentience. But we'll see. Like when you say young, are you talking about trimesters? Are you talking about days, weeks? What are we talking about? Like around the time that a woman discovers she's pregnant, there's no way to tell what sex it could be until later in the pregnancy. So you determine its identity by what sex it is? Is that your position? Do I have music playing? I need music playing for y'all. I don't. Yeah, there's that too, but I also want him to answer my question. By the time a fetus reaches the point where it's clearly developing one way or another, then we can say that there's life. Okay, so your position is that until it has a sex, it is not an individual. That is your position. Okay. Yeah, I guess I would say why? Yeah, why is that the case? Because if you really think about it, it will either have an XX or an XY chromosomal prior to the point that it develops its genitalia. So even if you were to say that its sex is what defines it being an individual, it has a sex at conception? So I'm just kind of confused by that ideology that you would have to wait until it shows that it has a set sex when it just has a set sex from the start, right? So and that's the only reason it takes 10 weeks funds in order to find that is because we don't invasively test their genetic makeup prior to birth. If we really wanted to, we could take a DNA sample from the fetus, the growing fetus. It's a super risky procedure and we don't have the technology to safely do it, but we could very, very, very much so take that DNA sequence, plug it into a fucking calculator, and it would show whether it's XX and XY on the chromosomal pattern. So I don't see why we necessarily have to wait until it develops genitalia for it to be an individual when its sex is assigned at conception. I don't see the point in that. And so I guess your argument is that it's an individual from conception, technically speaking, right? Just kind of an interesting position to take, I believe. At least logically speaking, like according to biology, it has a sex at conception, or like a couple fucking hours after conception, right? I'm not gonna say the second the fucking sperm touches the egg, right? Like, I don't see why it needs genitalia to be a person. For example, what if it doesn't develop genitalia at all? What if there's just a hole for piss to come out of? Are we then gonna say it's never an individual? I don't see the logic in that. My position boils down to that I personally consider a fetus an individual at a later point in the pregnancy. Okay, you use that as a point of reference. I would like to know what the exact point is that you consider them an individual, and what is the differentiator, right? Because I need a differentiator in order to find out where we are deciding it's an individual. I wonder if Funds can hear me, because he just said my point again.
I think he can.
Oh, then why did he just reiterate my point? Is there an average time where the baby is found to be XY sex by the mother in question? I see, here's my issue with that, again, is that the XY chromosomes are like very close to conception. It's like within a couple of hours they have a DNA sequence. So you could say there's an average amount of time for the mother to find out, but why does that make the baby an individual when the mother finds out? Like, where would that differentiator be? What makes them an individual? Yes, the chromosomes are present at conception, but it hasn't had the time to actually develop what it's going to be. Yeah, but that doesn't change that doesn't change anything. I'm asking you why it would be an individual at the time that the mother finds out. Why is it dependent on the mother for the baby to be an individual? In other words, I'm saying I really need a point in time where it's an individual so we can actually get this started. Because right now, we're just going over semantics. We haven't actually started debating anything. Jesus Christ, alive.
Holy
oh
shit.
my god. Holy shit. Fact check by real Arabian executioners is crazy work. Just a laceration, feel the rot within. Alright. While we wait for Volt's response, Funds, what do you have? I saw you posted a little bit earlier. Here it is. Teen Gojo, before even knowing Reversal Red, used Lapse Blue to completely demolish a relatively small building. Large building. So you want him to have a large building level? Okay, so you want large building level AP? Funds? Okay, large building level. What's his speed? How fast is Teen Gojo? This is about to be so fucking funny, bro. Bro's about to get shit on by a blade of grass. Like, just literal grass. Nothing special about the grass. Well, that's not true, but we'll get into that. Funds, mic up, buddy. Blade of Grass as a Quincy is crazy. You don't need to find gifts, bro. You can just tell me, bro. This shit is not hard. I just want you to scale this character. Dude, you can use like rough scales. It doesn't have to be an exact scale. No. I don't need a fucking like number. Like, I don't need his number. I don't need his miles per hour, bro. But he's gonna whip out the, yeah, Gojo can move like 17 miles per hour in a light jog. 45 miles per hour with a sprint, and like when he's using blue to propel himself, like 500,000 miles per hour. Teleportation is not a speed feat, it's a hex. No, he just moves faster than an average human? Okay, cool. So he moves faster than an average human. Okay. My premise is that a Blade of Grass completely outspeeds your character and one-shots Gojo. I have multiple reasons for having a pro-choice. Okay, well, I'll get back to your pro-choice argument in a moment. Yeah, I do agree that your initial talking point was abysmal dog shit. I'm glad that you can see that. Because I was like, what the fuck? Okay, so Go-Go Gadget Infinity. That's great, because I wanted to bring up Infinity. That was my first talking point. So, do you agree that Gojo can only filter out things within his frame of reference, and Infinity's frame of reference is the speed of light? Just so you know, I really don't need... Yeah, no, that's not true. It's literally stated in the manga that if you moved as fast as the speed of light or faster, that he wouldn't be able to fucking handle it. Because it's a frame of reference. JJK ended like 5 fucking minutes ago, dude. Oh my god. I'm gonna put a burden of rejoinder on you, Funds. You have 5 minutes. Yeah, it's mass and speed, so if you move too fast, it can't do anything. Yeah. Okay, here. You know what? I will straight up I will straight up tell you that he can't. So, Funds, do you agree that light hits Gojo? Yeah, cool. So if light hits Gojo, then things moving at the speed of light will hit Gojo by transitive property. Okay, cool. My blade of grass moves at a rate of speed that is infinite. Proof? Sure. So, do you know why Naruto, or do you know why Minato is called the Yellow Flash? Okay. Are you familiar with Naruto at all? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So Minato is capable of the Flying Thunder God technique. It is a space-time ninjutsu created by Tobirama. Essentially, it allows him to teleport, right? But here's the thing: he's able to do it consistently. He doesn't have to. He doesn't specifically have to use the tools that he normally does to use it. For example, the kunai, right? Just do this. Let me just get you like a fucking. Yeah, here. So he's called the Yellow Flash because essentially he is able to teleport to locations marked with seals. Whenever he's called the Yellow Flash because he leaves behind a yellow flash when he does it. Here's the issue: once he is cloaked in Kurama's chakra, which is the nine-tailed fox, he is capable of doing this without any seals. So he can just completely teleport like that, basically making it his base movement speed, right? So his base movement speed is being at two places at the same time. So yes, it is teleportation, except he's able to do it as his base movement. So it's no longer a skill, like it's no longer like a technique, it is literally just him moving. Like he is capable of just moving to the point where he's in multiple places at the same time. Right? So we define teleportation as going from one place to another without any time taking place, right? He's able to be in multiple places at the same time. So that's not teleportation, that's infinite speed. Because you're able to be occupying multiple spaces within the same amount of time, which means that your speed has to go past the threshold. This correlates to grass how? So remember how we talked about the law of identity and 1 equals 1? No, just go ahead. Like, you remember how we talked about the law of identity and 1 equals 1? Okay, cool. So do you remember how I said any percentage of infinity is still infinity? Anything that moves within the Naruto universe would be moving at a percentage of anything else in the Naruto universe, would it not? Yeah, exactly, right? Like if somebody's walking next to me and I'm walking a little bit faster than them, then that means that they are, a percentage of what I'm walking, right? So that means that anything in that's not true. Stop. You're lying. When wind blows, grass moves, okay? Anything in the Naruto universe moves at a percentage of the speed that's it doesn't matter. Okay, so hold on. It does not matter if it's due to another force. Oh, hold on. I can actually just negate this. I can negate this argument entirely. Are you aware that Naruto's power system is chakra? I can even grant this to you. This is super funny. Watch this. Yeah. Are you aware that that the power system in Naruto is chakra? Or would you just like me to explain chakra to you? Because I can do that too. Okay, I'll just explain chakra to you. So essentially, chakra is a life force found in all living things, right? Anything that possesses chakra also possesses will. Chakra can be used to create force, which means that obviously, right, if it's living, it can create force. So we can then conclude that because grass is a plant and plants are alive and living beings hold chakra. No, there's no holding on. Living beings hold chakra. The grass holds chakra and is able to use force. And if you don't believe me, there are inanimate objects within the Narutoverse that hold chakra and move on their own.
Could you give an example of like said objects?
Sure, yeah. Is it like a scale? Like, what do you mean by is chakra like a scale? No, chakra is a life force. So yes, when I forget her name, but she's I think it's Conan. Yes, Conan infuses paper with chakra, and the paper then like can automatically defend against other things, whether she's paying attention to those things or not. Gaara does the same thing with sand, where he injects sand with chakra, and it's able to block things in his blind spot, right? So we know that the sand has to be moving with the will of the chakra. So
I don't know much about Conan, but for Gaara's sand, it's his mother's will for that.
Yeah, right, but still, right? The sand would be moving. Because remember, the sand is not alive, right? Sand is an organic form.
Yeah.
But it's still.
It would be the chakra.
There. Yeah, so the chakra can enforce will and cause things to move on their own. So that's my argument, not that the sand is alive. Obviously, that'd be incorrect. But that is my argument for chakra being able to possess inanimate objects and allow them to move. Sand cannot move on its own, right? So we have no reason to believe that grass could not move on its own, seeing that it holds chakra as a living entity.
I guess a counter to that could be both the cases that you've mentioned. It's a being with will that's provided that. Like that chakra came from Gaara's mother, and the chakra for Conan that came from Conan, she infused it into the paper. So I guess the paper dolls are a bit iffier because she I don't really know what to say for that.
My counter to that would be that there are plenty of for example, the living weapon Samehara that one shark guy uses is a living, breathing weapon that has its own chakra and its own fucking will. Yeah, Kisame. That would be my counter argument. The blade of
But
grass
Samehara doesn't have any chakra.
Oh, that's literally.
Samehara produces chakra from taking other people's chakra, but it doesn't produce its own.
Okay, hold on. That's a self-destructive argument. I don't have energy. I just consume food and produce energy.
I guess that is true.
Yeah. Fun's argument is the blade of grass doesn't have enough chakra to actually be alive. Well, first off, blades of grass are alive because plants are alive, right? That's a non-argument. Including the point that wouldn't it need a brain to use chakra? No, all living things have chakra. What's it going to do against a blue? Oh, well, it moves faster than Gojo can process, and it would just kill Gojo in one hit. Oh, how would it kill Gojo in one hit? I'm so glad you asked, because this is my favorite equation in the world. Force equals mass times acceleration. the mass of one blade of grass could be 1 gram. If I multiply that by infinity, it hits infinitely hard and kills Gojo instantaneously. There you go. Mass times acceleration funds. Very easy. It hits with infinite force. That is how it kills Gojo in 1 hit. Itachi would dog walk Obito, and it's not even close. A healthy Itachi, sorry. A healthy Itachi.
Oh, yeah.
Like reanimated Itachi would dog walk Obito. We know this because Obito's DMs Itachi's. Alright, again, how does a blade of grass use chakra? Well, Jesus Christ, funds, we already went over this. Living beings have chakra and living beings have will, right? So the blade of grass uses that chakra. It just does. It doesn't need, this is silly. What will does a blade of grass have? What will does a fucking, like, what will does a fucking Samehara have? Like, it just has will, bro. I'm sorry to tell you, dog. There's no brain in the Samehara, it just fucking exists, right? It's a silly non-argument. Anything that has chakra has will. No, it's not crazy reaching. It's literally said in the show, right? Every living thing has chakra. Everything that has chakra can enforce its will. Don't blame me, bro. Blame the show. I didn't make everything infinite speed. The show just fucking has it.
Wait, there's something different here. Humans didn't have chakra in the first place.
No,
until
you're right,
the whole
until the tree of life. Yeah. But then the tree of life grew into the earth and gave everything chakra. Why do you think like Senjutsu is literally chakra from nature, bro? Like it's there. Chakra has will, right? If something possesses chakra, it has will.
I don't know how accurate this is, but chakra wasn't given to humans in particular from the tree itself.
Yeah, okay, so yes, God tree, right? Here's the issue. The God tree gave, like, the fruit of the God tree gave it to the humans, but the God tree itself gave chakra to the earth, which is how you have Senjutsu. Senjutsu is literally just nature jutsu.
This is true. I'm just trying to find, like, the facts about chakra, I guess. I don't really have a stance in this.
Yeah, look at
Because,
the
yes,
bottom.
Senjutsu does exist.
Look at the bottom. Their purpose to collect the chakra of all living things, right? All living things.
Oh, yeah, and chakra predates.
Yeah, like chakra
Eating
existed
the fruit.
prior, right? It was just that people didn't have it.
For whatever reason, yeah.
So yeah, my blade of grass knocks the ever-living shit out of Gojo and kills him instantaneously. It's not even close. No, right? Because once again, Naruto's Shippuden's ontology would just subscribe to higher sets of infinity. Right? Like,
Gojo doesn't scale to Naruto grass, but the Naruto characters do scale in their own universe.
yeah, exactly. Like it would subscribe to a different ontology. This isn't difficult to understand, Funds. It's a different universe, so it has different rules. Just face it, bro. Gojo does not scale to the Naruto universe. I'm sorry. Like literally a blade of grass just gets fucking eviscerated. Like it just eviscerates Gojo. That's how it is. The wind would eviscerate Gojo. Yeah. So it's okay. Like it's, you know, the world's not over. It's just that Gojo sucks ass and dies. And then Volt left before he could argue his pro-choice belief. Yeah, that was like, what, 6 debates in a row? Something light. I feel like I'd fucking tear... I feel like I would tear shit apart. Jesus Christ. I forgot you sent this. Look are older than you talking about complex things, but it's low-key fun to watch. Yeah. No, that's what debate is. Debate is just old people talking about shit. Yeah, no, that's those are all of my arguments for the most part. There's probably definitely some shit that I haven't talked about. Oh yeah, I said trans rights. Yeah, probably not. I don't actually think that trans people have any rights that are different to normal humans. I think this is weird why people want trans people to have more rights than other people. I don't know if I agree with that. One day I'm broadcasting my woe. I'm blaming it on a blade of grass. It's fucking ridiculous. Need to cut up what he just said into an evil clip. Jesus Christ. That's some freaky deaky shit. Also, speaking of which, what do you think of the Gojo versus Makima debate? I think, realistically, Makima fucking obliterates Gojo, and it's not even close. Yuha gives the Blade of Grass a Swift, and Ashvalin's it. Yeah, but is Yuha infinite speed? Because he would have to be infinite speed to catch the Blade of Grass. Yeah, no. The Almighty's fine, but can he react to infinite speed? Because like Ichigo is able to outspeed the Almighty, so something tells me he's getting caught lacking by that Blade of Grass, dog. I'm sorry to tell you. he might be getting caught lacking. Like literally Ichigo's hacks was that he was too fast and too strong for the Almighty. That's kind of like my argument. Something I find mighty stupid about power scaling is how dodging lasers is practically an instant way to become faster than light. It depends on how you define lasers, but lasers are usually described as like light beams. So, you know, kind of how that works. Yeah, right? Because it's because of light. So, yeah. I should show this man the Murder Drone's power scaling. I don't know what any of that shit is. Just remember, it is in the rules of the server that you can always ping me and request a debate. Oh, that's fucking ridiculous.
Why did you bring up that fandom again? Or wiki?
Tobirama solos Jogo. I mean, once again, JJK doesn't even scale to a Blade of Grass. So, I don't even think you need Tobirama. I think you just need a Blade of Grass, and it would be every character in JJK. Saitama. I'm sorry, does Saitama have infinite speed?
He can.
No, but does he? I don't want to hear about his potential. Does he?
Well, he's realized that potential, but because he did that, he went back into a point in time where he didn't have it.
Yeah. So he didn't realize the potential of infinite speed. He just grew really fucking strong. The issue with One Punch Man is that in order for him to overpower you, if you were stronger than him, he would have to be able to grow to become that strong. If you kill him in one hit, then he doesn't have time to grow. So my argument is that the infinite speed Blade of Grass hits him infinitely hard and he fucking dies.
I mean, I guess it depends on what Saitama you use. If you use the Saitama that, like, at his peak that we've seen, it would be before he goes back in time via infinite speed.
Well,
That Saitama would not,
I don't
like,
believe he
that
used,
Saitama is infinite.
He didn't use infinite speed to go back in time though.
Are you talking about, there's, like, 3 different iterations of Saitama regarding publications. There's the, like, original, like, the person that made One Punch Man. There's the manga adaptation. And then there's the anime.
Okay.
Anime is way far behind.
Can you show me which one says he has infinite speed?
It's let's see. This is the panel it's around. I don't know where that is in the manga itself, but you should be able to find it by searching like Saitama copying Garo. That will like show you it.
No, yeah, but I remember this. This had nothing to do with speed. This had everything to do with him being able to use like the power of God. This had nothing to do with his speed though.
I mean, it's
That's not a speed feat, Dippy.
yeah, it's not a speed feat, I guess. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
so
the
my
power
point
to
is-
reverse causality.
Yeah, which I don't have an issue with. My issue with is that it takes time for him to do that, and my infinite speed Blade of Grass hits him infinitely hard and he dies. Yeah, he just fucking dies. It's the same issue with Maharaga, right? You don't give him time to overpower you, you just fucking kill him.
Then what would we say about the fact that Saitama did, like, go back in time to do that? What would that count as? Because he didn't
Okay.
throw a punch
So,
in the timeline.
Yeah, so
like-
check this out. Check this out. He uses the power of God to go back in time and do whatever he needed to do. This is not a speed feat. Right? It is impossible to use speed to reverse time. Yeah, it's just a hacks, it's not a speed feat. And it also takes time for him
Yeah.
to do this hacks. So if it takes time for him to do this hacks, and my Blade of Grass moves infinitely fast, there's no time for him to do that hacks, and he fucking dies.
I guess, yeah. That's true.
So yeah, my Blade of Grass, my Blade of Grass kills Saitama too. So time travel for speed, it has to be specifically stated that it's a speed feat. And then even then, there's no real way to fucking do it. There's no real way to calculate it. Some people say immeasurable. I like immeasurable, honestly. Yeah, my Blade of Grass kills all. Very strong Blade of Grass. Infinitely strong Blade of Grass.
I'd say regarding the like speed feat, if you're traveling back in time via speed, immeasurable would be more than just being faster than light. Like, I'd say immeasurable would be beyond infinity, because with that infinity speed, they can like be in 2 places at once, as Minato has done. But they can't go back in time. They're not that fast to go back in time. So I'd put the immeasurable above infinity because of the feat of going back in time.
No, yeah. Immeasurable is above infinity.
Okay.
Hold on.
Blade of Grass versus Biblical God.
Hold on, let me. Well, no, okay, it didn't happen. There we go. Alright, hold on. We're my guys that kill people for a living may join the call. You may have an easier time
Fair enough.
debating. You may have an easier or worse time debating them.
With the Blade of Grass versus God?
Be Shinigami gonna kill all of JJK? Yeah, I mean, yeah. No. Clueless isn't here yet. It'd be interesting to see you guys debate Uda. I don't think you guys should debate Clueless though. Hold on, I can ping him here, actually. Yeah, 3:43 a.m. by the way.
It is a little late, but it's also... I don't really have anything today. Next class is on Thursday.
I'm probably gonna head out in like 15 minutes. I do need to sleep. But I want to see a quick debate. Yeah, okay. Uda. I think Dippy, you probably have the best. You have the best arguments, so you should do it.
Oh, wait, for what?
Abortion.
Abortion?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, what's Batman's stance?
No, yeah, he's definitely the same stance as me.
Oh, okay. What did I say specifically?
Don't change your stance or
Yeah.
your arguments. Bro, I'm for life.
That was a while ago. Shit. I guess I'm pro-choice. I'd say that before that we can. Oh, never mind. That was bizarre. Before we can prove that sentience is a factor or is present. I think I said, yeah. Before we can prove sentience, or before we know that sentience is 100% in the baby, I'd say until the point that like 99% of babies aren't sentient, the parents should be able to choose whether or not to abort the child. I think that's what I said before. Or here, I can type it out to make it more concise.
Uda, I'm timing you. Just so you're aware. Oh, why? I just want to compare you to myself. I want to see how fast you can shut this down. No, you're debating on abortion right now, Uda.
You are saying abortions are, or I guess Crisis said abortions are never ethically allowed. Yeah.
No, Uda, Uda, you gotta debate him. You gotta debate him right now. I need you to do it. Yeah. Do it quickly. Do it quickly. This should be literally like warm up. This is not. No, you gotta debort. You gotta do it in text form, goofball. You're literally texting right now. Do it in text form. You can type. You can speak. No one's asking you to speak, bro.
What?
I can't type getting a low table. Shut the fuck up. Uda, stop fucking around. I got 10 minutes left until I go to sleep. I want to see a debate that isn't me. Alright, but you're tripping. Don't listen to the one who yaps, by the way. He's like 14. No, Uda. Bro,
5 minutes.
Clueless? Where's Clueless? Clueless. Why do I call Clueless, bro?
I guess, what are your thoughts on Limbus so far?
It's
Just
really
while we wait.
No, yeah, it's really good.
Would you say to play it before Ruina or Lobotomy Corp?
I think you should skip Lobotomy Corp in its entirety, and you should go straight to Library of Arena, and then you should go to the Limbus Company.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel as though Lobotomy Corp necessarily contributes to the overall plot of the world building. I think
Yeah.
that you could get a very brief synopsis of Lobotomy Corp, and then you would be just fine continuing on.
That's perfectly fair.
I feel like Lobotomy Corp literally is just a, it's just a mass, it's like a game for masochists. You have to want to not feel good to play Lobotomy Corp.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, hopefully one day we'll get a
Debate stream part 2.
we'll get like an actual, who knows, I might bring back like regular debates.
Yeah, I had no clue that either you said the server or the channel was regarding that.
Yeah.
I only came around during Ruina.
Yeah, hold on, where was it? You grab my,
That's bizarre.
You grab my YouTube channel real quick. If you go to my channel and you go to videos and you just keep fucking scrolling. Yeah, if you go to oldest, right? You can see that like, yeah.
Is it the proof video?
Well, yeah, that's one of them, right? Then it was some guy tried to like argue against like the Oxford definition of like student and shit.
Oh. Yeah, there it is.
And then if you go to lives, you can see like crisis lives, gender equality, cheating is worse, like schools with gender like standards, male improvement, human equality. Back to the calm was literally me like debating some randoms. This is back when I like debated as part of like the debate community. So yeah, there's all kinds of stuff.
Oh yeah, I just hit oldest on live. I see them all now.
Yeah, and then if you really wanted to fucking debate, like if you ever wanted to actually like hash out your viewpoints with others, you can go to this server.
I mean, for me, the whole debate vibe got killed back in high school because I got put on